Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. It's ChrisMartin.tv here, and we're live streaming this both to the ChrisMartin.tv channel and the Lot and Proud channel. And today I have Dr. Samantha Langford from CEDIS and Sarah Pape from Three Raptor Consulting, and they're going to be joining us to talk about all things small business in this time of uncertainty and the new loan options and other financial options that are available to multiple businesses here. So I'm going to bring them in here and we're going to go from there. Let me get them online and we will go. Ladies, welcome to the show and thanks for joining me today. And I want to start with Sam. Sam, if you just want to do a quick intro on who you are and who you're with, and that way everybody can kind of be familiar with you.
All right, great. I'm Dr. Samantha Langford. I currently work as the director for the Center for Emerging Technology and Entrepreneurial Studies at Cameron University, and I'm also the Southwest Regional Director for the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center.
Excellent. And Sarah, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah Pape. I'm the owner of Three Raptor Consulting. We specialize in working with small businesses and nonprofits to help them be as profitable as they can and to streamline businesses.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for joining me. I know it's after hours, but I think at this point in time, since we're all in shelter in place, there's really not much of a thing called after hours anymore. We're just constantly working to keep ourselves busy. So we're going to jump right in. And while we're doing this, if anybody's got any questions, make sure you throw them in below so we can see them. They'll pop up on our screen, and we'll know what we can ask, and we'll get to those when we can. We've got a set of about 15 questions right now, and we're going to try to get through these as succinctly as possible in an hour. If we run over a little bit, we will, but we're just going to keep rolling. And like I said, if you see anything in there that you want to ask, just throw it in the comments, and we'll jump on it. So we're going to start with Dr. Langford. So what loans are available to help small businesses during the coronavirus pandemic?
Sure. All right. So the SBA is offering an economic injury disaster loan. They're calling it EIDL. And that also, in addition to that, we have the Paycheck Protection Program.
And what are the differences between those two?
All right, so the economic injury disaster loan is going to look at your past performance to determine what kind of injury your business has sustained. So they are going to be able to provide potentially up to 6 months worth of protection. They're going to look back at your operating costs and your payroll. As for the Paycheck Protection Program, they will look back at about 2 months worth of economic injury in terms of payroll and also some operating costs as well. So there is some overlap between the two programs. The economic injury disaster loan will be distributed by the SBA, while the Paycheck Protection Program is actually distributed by local banks that are right now SBA approved.
Excellent. And what are the requirements for applying for these? Are you apply through online, or are you going to an office to apply? How are you going through the process for that?
Okay, so first of all, those that should apply are small businesses. There are, say, qualifications for that, but let's just say as a general rule of thumb, it's under 500 employees, and but it can also include sole proprietors and cooperatives, employee stock, and tribal small businesses. One way or the other, every small business should go online to the SBA and apply for this economic injury disaster loan. That's through the SBA. The Paycheck Protection Program is actually something that you'll go online and find the application with the U.S. Treasury, print off the PDF and fill it out, and then you will give that to your local bank to help you apply for that.
Okay. So, Sarah, what are the requirements for a nonprofit to apply and qualify for the EIDL?
So the nonprofit, first of all, needs to be in good standing with the IRS, which means that you have maintained filing your 990 every year and that you have not had any regulations or anything that's been filed against you. You also need to make sure that you're in good standing with the state, that you've filed with the Secretary of State, and that you are scheduled to be a fundraiser. So make sure you've hit those blocks first. After that, you need to be a nonprofit that is a publicly owned nonprofit or publicly serving, which is what most of us think of when we say nonprofit. So you think of a food bank, you think of a nursing home, they qualify to apply, and they'll need to know what their overall 12-month operational costs were.
Excellent. So, for pretty much every nonprofit that's on the ball won't have a problem with jumping in on this and moving forward.
They shouldn't. Now, I do have to say that religious nonprofits don't qualify. They specifically said churches are not allowed to apply. However, some churches do have a separate nonprofit or a separate wing where they offer secular activities. You can apply for the secular activities, but you have to be able to pull the expenses out for those. But honestly, as long as you're in good standing, then yes, every nonprofit that's affected by this should go and apply.
Excellent, excellent. So I actually jumped a little forward asking about how to get to these loans, but how much can somebody borrow with one of these loans? And this is for Dr. Langford.
Okay, and I want to go back some. Can I continue on about the application online? I just want to make something clear because it's really important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the SBA has had 3 iterations of the online application for this EIDL. 3 weeks ago, that form actually crashed. So there's a lot of people in this community that probably tried to log on, it got stuck, then the SBA website went down for like 2 or 3 days, and they lost their information. Maybe not. The point is, unless you got an actual confirmation number, then you absolutely need to go back in and fill the application in this week. Now, the second week, what they decided to do because it crashed is offer people PDFs to download and fill out the information upload. Well, that overloaded their system enough that they shut that down. So now we finally streamlined it and have a great application. It's only 5 pages. You don't have to create a user account to log on. You can even go in there and type in bogus information if you want to just test out the system. But what's important is it's streamlined. The earlier applications asked for all of your tax information, and it was so itemized that it drove people crazy. They didn't know what to do. Well, now that they streamlined it and they basically just want to know what was your revenue and operating costs and how many employees do you have, boom, you're done. Make sure, above all, that you check. There's a checkbox that says, please consider me for the $10,000 advance. Say yes, because that advance is actually potentially a grant. So you want to make sure you have that. So if you heard a whole bunch of misinformation, I have to provide all this stuff up front, my tax returns, forget all of that, go back online and apply again. And if in doubt, just go back and apply online again, even if you did it in the past 2 weeks, because you want to make sure you're in the system and you want to make sure that you've checked yes to the $10,000 advance. So how much you can get for the loan is, as I said, for the EIDL loan, they're going to look back at 6 months worth of operating costs. Essentially, there's a long list of what they will cover, but salary, wages, things like that, commissions. You want to, ask me about that, but really think of the EIDL as business continuity. So you need money, not because you lost all this earned revenue and you're going to somehow get it back. What it is make sure that you stay in business and keep on your feet. The payroll protection program is only looking at essentially 2.5 months worth of your payroll. That's what it's going to ensure. But they also throw a few, as I said, a few operating costs in. So, it's up to $2 million you can get supposedly for the EIDL, and then they say up to 10 million for the payroll.
Gotcha. So along these lines as well, and I have to say that as a small business owner, I actually did this as well. I went through basically all 3 iterations of the form. I jumped on it the night it became open, and I was trying to pull up all my data and get it all put together, and then the system crashed, and then the forms, went to that thing, and before I was able to get those submitted, again, it changed. So I've been waiting to see if they're going to change it again. So hopefully on the 3rd time, it is actually the charm in this case, and I'll be able to finish the process, or rather start it over and get it through. But we talked about how much you can borrow. Do you need to repay these loans?
Okay, so on the EIDL, you could get up to $10,000, as I said, as a grant. So you don't have to repay that. Now, let's just say you can be a sole proprietor and your operating costs are $3,000. You're not going to get $10,000. So that's just up to $10,000. One. After that point, the rest is a loan. The conditions for the EIDL is that you have 30 years to repay it. There's no fees associated with what's going on. It's 3.75% for small businesses or for-profits. It's 2.75 for nonprofits. your first payment doesn't start for 12 months. And I want to say this all over again, that I'm not a banker and I'm not a CPA. So, but I'm trained on this 24/7 lately. So, going back to the paycheck, that is okay. So they will forgive a certain portion of your loan, this 2.5 months, but they're going to go back and inspect and make sure that you have at least 75% of those costs are going to go back into payroll. So I use this as an example. Let's say that you had 10 employees before this whole pandemic began, and then you've let most people go. Okay. So when you find out that you get the paycheck protection program, you need to either rehire individuals to get back up to that 75%, um, or you won't get that 2.5 months forgiven. That will just remain alone to a certain percentage. And so, I don't want to go into the specifics. You need to talk to your banker, but a lot of people are worried about letting people go. First of all, if you let them go, they do get unemployment, and unemployment has its nice little stimulus right now. Second, the whole point of these programs is to bring people back to where they were before the pandemic. So the idea is you can go back, you don't have to rehire the same people. It'd be nice if you did, but you got to get back up to 75% of where you were before. So.
Okay. So it's pretty clear that this whole thing is literally to take care of the employees, really ultimately as much as the small business. We're not just talking, large corporations in that sense for the SBA stuff. It is literally taking care of the base of the economy, which is small business. And I love that. And, I only have me as an employee, but there are others that definitely were worried about taking care of their people. And if they didn't have revenue coming in, I know that's a huge benefit to them to be able to cover their employees, because ultimately they're family. They want to take care of them. I love that. So, Sarah, what does a nonprofit cost of operation mean?
Okay, so your cost of operation is what it costs to run your building, not necessarily all of your programmatic costs. So they're going to want to know on your at the end of the year what you spent running the entire organization. Now, I do need to distinguish that if you have grant funding for any of that, you cannot claim what you currently are receiving in grants. So your operational costs will cover your office, your utilities, and payroll, and anything specific to maintaining your business.
Gotcha. And sorry, here I'm going through these as quickly as I can.
You're good.
And what are they specifically looking for with that? You talked about building operations, things like that, but are there any granularities with that?
I don't think so. It's basically the same as with a regular business. So what does it cost every day when you open your doors? What does it cost to make the programs happen? Now, when I say it doesn't necessarily cover all programmatic costs, it's because those aren't necessarily operational costs. So if you have a program that you supply dinner for every week, that's not an operational cost. The operational costs are the things that just to get your business going. So it's going to be your insurance, your rent or occupancy, your utilities, if you have a CPA, maybe your auditing fees, but I doubt that, and some of your payroll, but nothing that is specific to a program.
And so, in the difference of this, how is this differing from the combined annual operating expenses for all secular social services provided by faith-based entities?
So what that means is if you are a church faith-based organization that offers a completely secular, like a food pantry, then they need to know what the food pantry costs are, not the overall just costs of the church and the food pantry. You need to be able to separate that out because they're not going to provide any funding to keep the church going.
Okay. And Sam, you talked about the emergency, or the $10,000 emergency, and what is that like? Can you expand upon that in that sense of the grant options with that? I know you talked about it a little bit with it being a loan versus a grant, and making sure that the term grant is that it's forgiven, and that people need to understand that and how that's going to apply long term for IRS filings and things along those lines.
Well, I would say think of originally we're going to give you loans, and now a portion of that is a grant so that they just get the money out to people as quickly as possible. All right. And in terms of what kind of tax benefits are going to come, I mean, there's already, one that came out today, an employee can't even remember the name of it. What is it called? Yeah, employee retention tax credits. I think there's going to be multiple tax credits that will come out of this. So I can't really, I mean, literally, I just got one a few hours ago, so I can't say so much about the tax credits. But the whole point of these two programs is to, one, get funds into the hands of people as quickly as possible. And then if you want, you can take the loan, right? Now, what's also important to know is that if you receive both loans, and you should apply for both loans, because that is misinformation that, or let's say the SBA changed their mind about this at some point. Originally, they said apply for one or for the other. Well, and that's not the case anymore. Apply for both, and everybody should apply for both. There is no penalty for applying for anything. If anything, you might reject it. It doesn't matter. There's no penalty. But what you want is, it would be great to have a $10,000 advance. And if not, you're going to get the other advance. And what is important to know is that if you receive both, you're going to get the greater of the amount that you receive of the two. So you cannot have a loan and a grant that overlaps. Okay, so I don't even know if I answered all your questions. I just kept talking. There's so much information.
that actually covers it and then some.
Okay.
And there is a lot of information in this. I think before we started, you said this is 880 pages for the whole stimulus package that includes the SBA stuff we're focusing on.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So it's government red tape. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Exactly. If anyone wants a copy, I'll send it to you.
Excellent. So we do have actually a question from Facebook here. Marcia Cook asks, would a loan for a very small business with no employees be wise?
I would. I mean, the conditions are excellent from every standard. I mean, having no upfront cost, 3.75%. You got 12 months to even start paying, and you got 30 years to repay on the EIDL loan. I would just apply for everything and then sit down with your. I mean, you're going to have to work with your banker anyway on the PPP plan. But I would say sit down with your CPA and your banker. If you get the loans and options are good. There'd be no reason not to apply. And, whether people want to take on long-term debt, well, it's never great to take on long-term debt, but we all have to now because the economy is crashing, right? It's great if we could all just get the grants. But, the whole point is people do need credit right now in order to continue to survive and bring our economy back. So make that decision with your CPA and your banker, but above all apply.
Well, and we've talked about self-employed, but can freelancers also apply for any of these options?
Yeah, yes, they can. Yeah, there is a very complicated question about the PPP program, and can contractors apply or not? And I've gone back and forth about this all day. And just bear in mind that the SBA started training banks this morning at 8 a.m. So, considering how many times the SBA changed the nature of the loans in the past 3 weeks, so in other words, just stay tuned and apply. Even if you think you don't apply, a lot of bankers are telling people don't apply. I'm sure you're not eligible. Well, there again, it's not like you're going to get a note from somebody saying, I can't believe you applied. So just apply and we'll see what happens, because, my prediction is everyone may get something out of this if you have been impacted, negatively in some way. And we all have, right? So apply.
Now, along the lines of applying, I saw something, and this may have changed, but there's a deadline for later this year. So this is not absolutely right now. If things are going okay, you can let it die down a little bit with the demand. What are you suggesting on that? Is it just get it in and get it done? Or is there somewhere where we've got a little bit of buffer room where, if we're in a position where we can survive without a loan for the time being, where we can kind of hold off a little bit on going forward with it?
Well, I heard we've been talking about a December date, at least for the EIDL. However, we all have to imagine that the government doesn't have an endless supply of funds. I mean, on a call today, we were talking about this, and they said, well, if we run out of funds, then the government will just give us more funds. And, of course, the question is, where are these funds coming from, right? It sounds like controversial, but I would say, let's just apply now. And then you can make a decision once you receive it if you want to take it. But if you postpone long enough, maybe we will run out of funds, And besides, the whole point is, let's all hope and pray that we're going to get back to normal here sometime soon. So I would say don't hold off. You know,
Okay.
just do it.
So, and we've talked about both loans, and we've got actually a couple questions from Facebook here. Chris Coast asks, will this cover monthly subscriptions like QuickBooks and softwares that help the business run?
It should cover what you would consider to be operating costs. Now, as I said before, it was itemized, what you had to write down, 10,000 things. Most likely you're going to be working with your bank. So, and this is all about good faith. So nobody is most likely going to come and ask you, what did you do with this and this and this, except for the payroll loan. The payroll is actually going to come back in 8 weeks after you say you're going to look at this 8 week period and you are paying your employees during that 8 week period. They're going to make sure you did. And that's how they decide on the forgiveness. But other than that, I mean, it's just like anything else when you submit your tax returns, right? It's good faith, and is someone going to audit you? Maybe. So, but yeah, I would say once you get the loans, you use them for operating costs. You're not supposed to use it to, buy a pool and, expand your building. That's important. And if you write that on your application, you're not going to get it. But, so operating costs, yeah. And there are a lot of stuff. There's a lot of deals out there. Like I saw something with QuickBooks. And Chris, if you want to know, ask me and I'll find the link again. I think they're offering, free software or something or other. So, look for those opportunities right now.
For sure, a lot of businesses are, software providers and service providers are either reducing costs or delaying payments. As a photographer, I'm a big Adobe user, and they have an option to go either 2 or 3 months of basically free, not using or not paying for the product while you're still using it during this time. And for me, that's an extra 100 something, and $100 doesn't seem like much, but from an operational standpoint, if you get a bunch of those together, you can help reduce those costs a little bit. So anybody that is operating with monthly software as a service options or utility, things like that, see what the options are for being able to push that back. I know some credit cards are basically freezing the accounts to the point where you don't have to pay anything. You still get interest on that, but you're not getting charged late fees and things along those lines because of this process. And for a couple months, depending on your balances, that can be a lot of money that you're able to put somewhere else. So just my personal general advice to anybody that's watching and going through that. So Sarah, what does it mean for a nonprofit to be considered a private profit?
That was interesting. I've been reading a lot on that today. So basically, the IRS classifies nonprofits in a couple different ways. And the easiest way to explain it is a private nonprofit is your foundation, like the McMahon Foundation. And so they operate under slightly different guidelines, and their board of directors can be constituted differently. It doesn't have to be as diverse. You can have multiple family members on a foundation board, and it can be structured differently. Your public nonprofits, like I said, let's talk about Lawton Food Bank for a minute. They follow under the guidelines where you have to have a diverse board. 2 board members can't be related. You have to have minutes, regular meetings, and all of those things. And while the foundation does as well, they get to operate differently. So your private is more of your foundation that gives away the money, and your public is more the charities or nonprofits that help people and invest in the community.
Okay. And along the lines of nonprofits, Eric Malloy asks, is there any help for nonprofits that are all volunteers?
Yeah, definitely. The emergency loan package that we've been spending so much time talking about, you can apply to have your operational costs covered through that. So you just wouldn't qualify for the paycheck protection because you don't have payroll, but you still have operational funds. I guarantee you have rent, you should have insurance that you pay every month, and there should be a couple other daily costs that you use. I know some programs that are completely volunteer based, but they definitely have a higher overhead, and they qualify for the emergency relief.
Excellent. So Sam, credit, that's a big thing. Credit ratings, credit scores, it varies across the board. Is the credit score going to have any kind of impact on the application for these loans?
So for the EIDL, they say that they do look at your credit, and over loans over 25,000, they're going to see if you have some kind of collateral. However, the SBA has said time and again that it's on a case-by-case scenario. So the way I understand it is, if you can show historically that you have consistently been, paying your employees, and this is how much your operating costs are, and you made good faith attempts to pay your utilities and all whatnot, then, they're going to look at the whole package and the whole picture. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, supposedly that is not as important about credit, etc. But again, um, I would say that people overall always overestimate how good everybody else's credit score is. And overall, I think most people in the United States have not as great of a credit score. So just apply and don't worry about any of this stuff. And then when, again, you get the terms of the loan, and you can decide then, So,
Excellent.
yeah.
And I know you answered this earlier, but I think it's important enough that we pull this out and reiterate this. So if you've got employees and you've already laid them off or fired them, do they still qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program?
Yes, you should still qualify. There are several cases, and they lay out the scenarios, but one of these cases is they're going to look at what was your historical data before the pandemic. Okay. And then the point is that you didn't lay them off 3 weeks before everything fell apart, right? It happened during this time period. And what's even more important than that is just that you get back historically again to a number close, 75% above by the time June rolls around. But again, working with your bank to figure that all out. Yeah.
Excellent. And so Sarah, so let's say I'm a nonprofit and my bank doesn't seem to know anything about the Paycheck Protection Program. What do we do?
So that's a great question. As Sam said, the banks just started getting trained at 8 a.m. today. So it's going to take a minute for them to catch up. One of the important things to remember is that you have to figure out who the SBA preferred bank is in your state. Right now in Oklahoma, we know that that's Bank First. So even if they're not your bank, I would go ahead and reach out to them. Here in Lawton, we have some great offices, and I can definitely direct you to people that you can ask any questions to. So I would say, hold on a second. The application isn't live. Keep your eye open for that. And as soon as the application goes live, then the bank will be ready to answer any of your questions.
And we've always already established that nonprofits should apply, but Lawton Food Bank wants to know 12 months to pay, but when does the interest start on these loans?
The interest will start, as far as I understand it, 12 months from now, also with the EIDN loan, but don't quote me on that. So, but I'm pretty
That's
sure
subject to
12 months.
change.
That is subject to change. Okay, this is where a banker would be really good. And with the payroll protection program, the unforgiven, if you get the amount forgiven, it should be 0%. But if it's not forgiven, then at least the sheet that I have that I received today said 0.5% on unforgiven portion. But with a 2-year fixed note for that, the other one is a 30 year fixed note. But these are one of those things I would just wait and discuss with a banker, and when they finally have these things solidified, because it's changed over the past 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. And Barry Albrecht asks, or kind of has an explanation before the question. As of yesterday, while participating in a web meeting of the SBA DC, it was estimated that it'll take up to 8 to 12 weeks from the application submittal to receive the monies. The application is subject to the question, which could delay even further. Conditions are likely to change. Is this still true? And if so, will it still be too late for a lot of small businesses?
Well, today was the first time that I heard that people received a confirmation number that they had been accepted for the EIDL. So that's a good sign. And as soon as I hear that somebody actually received funds, then I will let you all know. So, they're working as fast as they can. And, the rumor on the street, and again, this PPP program just started today, but rumor on the street is that, people are trying to process this like mad, and maybe those funds will be distributed by banks. So it's really as fast as the banks can get trained and get ready to distribute those funds, then they will, get out there. And people should not forget that if they already have an established relationship with a bank, then they can also potentially work with those partners to get other business loans.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? While they're waiting. So these are not the only end all be all. If you're waiting for grants, the grant portion of each one, then you're just going to have to wait till that comes out. But you can always work with your banks.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too. That this is just emergency relief. This is not your standard business loan. So, coupling with that, if you've got one of those in line, does that affect or have any impact on this, or is this completely looked at as its own beast?
Can you say that again? You're saying if they have other business loans in general?
So let's say I had applied for a loan in January that was completely
Okay.
unrelated to the EIDL or to the pandemic. And so that's still in process maybe, or we've been accepted and whatnot. Is that going to have any impact on the EIDL side and applying for that?
I would say, again, without being a banker, and from what I understand, it should not affect it. But, as Sarah was saying, if the grant that you received, or, with grants, it gets more complicated. But
Mhm.
when in doubt, apply and then talk to your banker, and they're going to let you know whether or not it's possible to get both. But, um, and I also want to say that I don't know the specifics yet, but our governor in Oklahoma, he also has other opportunities and relief on the table, but it hasn't been put into effect yet, as far as I know. So
Right.
there's going to be more opportunities in the coming weeks, and then we will become experts one day. Right, Sarah? Of
Yes.
all of this. So, ask us again in a couple of weeks, and maybe we'll have even more opportunities. And, maybe even towns, counties, I don't know, other, entities will have relief. So look everywhere.
Chris, could I jump in for a minute?
Absolutely.
So I received some emails from some prominent nonprofits in Oklahoma, and they are actually freezing their grant cycles. Meaning, if you had a grant that was due in February that was going to be decided in, say, April, they've put those on hold, and they will look at them at their later cycle. They're not getting rid of them; they're just looking at them at a later cycle. And so, right now, they're accepting applications for emergency requests. So seek your foundations, talk to the foundations that you have established relationships with, because they have things in place and are getting things in place to offer true grants for emergency relief. So there's a couple other opportunities for nonprofits out there.
Excellent. And we wanted to clarify here that we mentioned Bank First being the SBDCA preferred provider, but we're just talking more specifically for Lawton, Oklahoma at this point. There are multiple providers for SBC loans throughout the state and
Correct.
nationwide as well. This is not just one
Correct.
bank that you can apply through. It is
Yeah.
just in Lawton that we're speaking of specifically. Now, the information that we're talking about is federal. So this is nationwide applicable, and so take that and make sure you're processing it through that lens.
Yeah, and I would also say, first things first is talk to your bank, your local bank that you work with, because a lot of banks are taking this also as an opportunity to get involved in SBA loans, and to help their customers out. So talk to them first. It's a learning
Right.
process, and then if you find out that they don't want to participate or don't understand it, then contact us, and we will put you in touch with many of the local banks that are participating. So first
And
start with
all
your local.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and all banks can process SBA loans, and all banks have programs right now in place to help. A lot of times, too, if you aren't maybe looking for a loan or don't qualify for a loan as a small business, you can ask your bank for a rolling line of credit, which sometimes is more powerful than an actual loan, because that's a set amount that you can use, pay it back, use again. And so, for a lot of small businesses, a rolling line of credit may be a better idea. The honest best thing to do is to know your banker, go into your banker, and just have a heartfelt conversation. But there are programs to help you. If you're a foundation, a nonprofit, reach out to the foundations that you have really good relationships with. We also haven't spoken or touched on donors at all with nonprofits. I would say this is definitely the time to put out an annual appeal or an additional annual appeal, to send out a new program, to ask for sponsorships. This is a key time to engage with donors. So look at donors, look at foundations, and call your bank, and be specific to ask about SBA loans, and be specific to ask about rolling line of credit. There's quite a few options available.
Okay. Now,
Yes, I want to
I think
also
we
say, oh, sorry. Can I say one more thing
no,
about banks?
absolutely, yeah, go for it.
Okay. There's something that some people are coming up against. And when you call your bank, a new bank, let's say your bank doesn't want to participate. So you call me and I give you some other banks. All right. You call them and they say, well, I want you to first have I want you to open an account, and I want you to do, jump through these 3 hoops. Not every bank is doing that. I had a list today that supposedly does that, but I don't know if it's true because I haven't verified it. So the point is, if you go and one bank doesn't want to work with you, keep trying, and I'll give you a list and you can go through them. All right. Because there's got to be banks. I know there are banks that, they would like to work with new clients, and they're not going to make people do that. So don't be discouraged is what I wanted to say.
And I have another item to add. Sorry, Chris. There's also, you can go through REI, which is the women's branch of the SBA, and they have lending programs and a lending center, and they have loans that are custom designed for women-owned businesses and minority businesses. So there's REI, there's all your different banks. There's a lot of options out there.
Excellent. Now, we have a question here from Marsha Kronk on Facebook. If the business was struggling financially before the crisis, will this affect approval for an operational loan? And I think that has a little bit to do with credit that we talked about, and depending on the size of the loan as well.
Again, that is on a case-to-case basis. I mean, people could have started theoretically their business on March 1st or January 1st. I'm not going to have tons of historical data to look at. So I have no idea what ultimately, the people that make the decisions are going to sit down and look at. I'm sure it's about the number of people applying. I do know that, from everything that I've understood, let's say you've been in business for 50 years and you've been consistently profitable. Well, you're definitely going to get everything you want. If you're not as profitable, it's going to be on a case-by-case scenario, just like anything else. But I would say your chances of getting these are greater than it normally is. So, take advantage of that and don't be discouraged. So again, apply.
And if anybody's got any questions, make sure you throw them in there. We've got some great questions so far, and thank you to everybody that's been jumping in on this, because this is a highly fluid situation. Separate from the pandemic being a fluid situation, just the relief and the support for emergency funding is one of those things, as Sam has mentioned several times, has changed so many times over the last couple of weeks. And even today, new information is coming out. So thank you for jumping in on this, and we'll update as we can go forward. We're thinking potentially weekly, giving out some new updates with different guests and whatnot. So make sure you get your questions in here so we can get them to them. And to either you, Sam or Sarah, have we not talked about anything yet that you wanted to bring up?
I guess I'd just say, and I'll just reiterate that there's a lot of information out there. There's webinars that you can participate in. The SBA hosts weekly webinars, as well as the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. I encourage you to get on those Zoom calls, and if you want the links to those, I can send it to you. But I would just say that the information is moving so fast that even in all the calls I've participated in, you always know where people are in the process of information. So it's crazy to stay up to date. So one, don't look at anything that you're reading online. If anything, go directly to the SBA website or the U.S. Treasury website. Look at no other source. Even all the stuff that we've been saying today is potentially could be obsolete in 5 seconds, or half of it could be, what. So the point is, like, we're just giving you the gist. Look it up on the direct source.
Also, another piece of information or a resource that I can offer you is, I know that all of your tech centers, like for here we have Great Plains Technology Center, they have an economic development building. For us, it's Building 600. They have been talking to all the tech centers throughout the state. They've been sharing information, and they're actually compiling information and resources to have available. I know our office will open April 6th on limited capacities, and they're also sending out weekly newsletters to keep us informed. So if you get overwhelmed and you can't get in touch with Sam, or you can't get in touch with myself, call your tech center, and they should have somebody that can direct you to the right place or give you the answer.
Good. And on that same point, so, as I said, I work for the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center as well as CEDAS. We're going to be providing regular information and updates. If you register at okspdc.org, you will get free business consulting, not only on the disaster loans, but the whole idea, and same with Great Plains Technology Center, is that we offer through your taxpayer dollars free business consulting now and for the rest of eternity. So you just need to register, and then we'll be able to help you through this whole process and help you fill out the application and figure out and find a lender, We can make introductions for you. It
Most
used to be in
definitely.
person, but now we're going to do it virtually, you know. But
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, social distancing is the new way of life. And the two links that Sam mentioned here are, well, I can do this right here. It's hard to do this backwards. This bottom one is for applying for the EIDL and to get on that. And the information that you'll need is oksbdc.org right there. And that's where your greatest sources of information are going to be on this. Like Sam mentioned, anything online right now is who knows who posted it, who knows where it came from. There's really no verification path. So don't trust Facebook. You know, if you get something, research it and go forward. Don't assume anything that you see through social media feeds or even sometimes on the news, because things are so variable. Don't trust that that is 100% accurate or sometimes even at all accurate. So these two websites here will be great for you, and you'll be able to get information. And like Sam mentioned, you can reach out to her or Sarah regarding any of this information. We'll have their contact info in the show notes as well. And these links, as well as another link that was way too long to paste here on the screen and have everybody type out. So we'll make that simple for everybody. And let's see here. John Veal actually added some info to this. That these programs are based or designed to provide relief for issues caused by disaster. So, however, a business that was in trouble prior to the disaster may not be approved for funding. So that is really the important thing about this, is that these loans are specifically dealing with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, and making sure that keeping that in mind. That is the frame that these have to be referenced with. So take that for what it is. Anybody can throw additional questions in here. If not, we're going to be wrapping this up here pretty quick, because we've been going we're almost 45 minutes now. I guess I can extrapolate a little bit here. As a halfway non-essential business, there are actually certain services that I provide that are essential and have been classified as such. So I'm able to partially operate still. I know these are things that I'm jumping on because it has directly affected my business, and pretty much every photographer out there, every other individual service provider. I can't stress it enough how important it is to jump on these and to make sure that right now you literally are doing it to stay active, in the sense of keeping doors open, making sure you're protected, your insurance is up to date. That's a big one. My insurance is actually due in May, so this is a perfect time to make sure that that's covered and that my doors stay open. So when this passes, we're good to go. We can jump right back into the mix. We don't have to worry about picking up anything. So is there anything that either Sarah or Sam would like to add in that vein?
Okay, so I will jump in here and add something kind of a little bit different than what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is very important. Keep your business sustainable, keep yourself going during this time period. So I would really encourage you to amp up your marketing and really look at how your marketing can invest in your clients and the community and keep you to the forefront of everybody's mind. But the real question, the real challenge is, as we're navigating this, is how are you going to put your business in the forefront when this is done? How are you going to make sure that you stay viable and in the front of everything? So you need to start working on that business plan as well. And with that being said, Google is offering a considerable amount of credits for free advertisements that will be available through December of this year. So I would encourage you to get on Google Business and access those credits. Facebook also has some programs and promotions that they're putting out specifically for businesses to keep them going. So while we're navigating this current situation, be forward thinking enough to think, how am I going to launch forward from this?
I'd also say that now with the mayor's I don't know if you call it the proclamation, like for example, that Walmart can't sell clothes anymore. This might be a very good opportunity for some people that did close their doors, that offers clothing, to do, door-to-door service. I was thinking the other day, I really want to buy some clothes. Maybe it would be great if they could just drop off a bag at my house of, size whatever.
Yes.
And then I try it on, and then they could come back in another day and pick it up, or in a week or something, you never know unless you go out and ask people. And I think it's the perfect time to use Facebook and say, hey, would anybody actually be interested in a bag of jeans? Mm-hmm. Yes, I would be interested in a bag of jeans to look through. So, maybe you think nobody's interested in what you have, but they probably are. And I don't like waiting for Amazon. Every time I order something on Amazon now, it says we may or may not ever deliver.
Yes.
And I just want you all to know that I just purchased some toilet paper online, and I bought 1,000 yards and it's 12 rolls. So I have toilet paper for the rest of my life. But there are places to purchase online. You just have to really think outside the box. And you can also make your own homemade toilet paper. I just want to say that. But okay. So think outside the box and talk to your
Yes.
customers and try to advertise on Facebook and see, ask people, would you ever, how can I
Right.
get my business back out there?
Oh, definitely. Keep going. Don't stop trying. Don't stop
Yeah.
talking to your consumers and find interesting ways to invest them. I know one thing in my company we're doing is we're offering a daily story hour Monday through Friday at 2:30 so we can try to give parents a little bit of a break and entertain their children. And since we have absolutely no idea what we're doing and my dogs, who I call my boys, are our guest stars, they always get interesting. So just even tune in for a laugh.
Yep. Yeah.
So that kind of actually brought up a topic for me because I'm working on side hustles all the time in addition to just the main business. And is this a good time to start a new business, or should everybody just sit tight?
I'm going to say if there's no initial needed investment or it's a relatively small amount that you can afford and it's fairly entrepreneurial or ingenuitous, help me out with that word, Chris, go for it. Do it. I love what Sam said about the clothes delivery because, oh my gosh, 2 more weeks and I'm going to be wanting to go shopping. So think outside the box. This is a prime market. Don't think that you can't start something new right now.
Yeah, for example, I mean, I'm not going to name all the names, but they've been talking about these new sneeze guards that have to go
Mm-hmm.
up everywhere. Well, as far as I know, some local businesses and business people, entrepreneurs are helping put those together. So, I think it's an excellent time. There's a need and people don't even know what the needs are yet. So
Mm-hmm.
start brainstorming and maybe I mean, we're probably going to all change our lives because of this and the way we do business.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
nothing's going back to how it was before. I think the best role models we can look at is the depression and how people navigated the depression, and I guarantee you businesses arose during that time. So look at your history and find your answers there. If you have grandparents that are still alive who lived through the depression, call them up, ask them how they made it. You're going to learn a lot and get some great firsthand information there.
That is a great example, and you better jump on it now because that is a generation that is becoming smaller and smaller
Right.
demographically. So, but make sure you do it via FaceTime. Stay away
Exactly.
from a social distance. Make sure you protect them because they are a wealth of information.
Yes.
And every time we come across a crisis of some type, whether that be a natural disaster with weather or the pandemic in this situation, it provides an opportunity for good business. And unfortunately, it provides opportunity for some bad stuff to happen as well. But let's just focus on the good stuff and the ability to grow and to provide services and abilities and even products to those that need them, and to do so with the intent of helping out. But right now, the sky is the limit. Outside of having to stay in place, shelter at home for the most part, there are options and opportunities here that if you can provide services to others, whether that be technical help by Facebook or Skype or Zoom or something along those lines, do it. Jump in there, and there are ways to do this. Don't think that this is a sentence to prison. It may feel like you're stuck at home, and that may be feel like that for a little bit, but ultimately it'll pass,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll give us more opportunities to think literally outside of the box of where we sit
Right.
and think about how we can provide services and help to other people. So I'm going to do one more check here, and Justin Hackney caught on your homemade toilet paper comment, Sam, and it's like that's a massive side hustle right there. So people can make some big money with that.
I'm telling you, you get a tissue warmer, you do little, you can get little rags, and then there's some composting involved, and so. But I also want to say one more thing, which is, some businesses are going to have to close, and that's the end of that chapter in our lives. But this is time to open a new chapter. You know what I'm saying? So nobody is alone in this. We're all, and I have seen an outpouring in all different ways, of people like dropping off a year's supply of food at people that have been, positive. So, if it all falls apart, we are all here together to bring it back together.
Yes.
Okay. So, share with other people what's going on. You're not alone, even though you might be in your house, and it's gonna be okay. And we're gonna get back to good, because you got to burn the forest to have renewal. All right, and
That's
this is
exactly
good.
right.
So this is gonna
Yeah.
change the whole world for the better in the end, perhaps, hopefully, and then we will. This is what humans do, right? So
Right.
that was my inspirational speech. But
Yes, we're going to practice resiliency, and we're not just going to survive, we're going to thrive. And that's definitely the attitude that we need to go through this with. And if something ends, I don't think we should look at it as a failure or a closed door or closed chapter. It was great. What can we learn from it, and how can we
Yeah.
move on? That's exactly what we need to do.
necessity is the mother of invention, or
Oh, definitely. Yes.
It absolutely is, and failure is a word that I think a lot of people are kicking around here right now. And yeah, it's not a failure, for crying out loud. If
No.
if the rug was ripped out from underneath you, just it sucks. It can be tough. It can be heartbreaking. I literally can't imagine doing anything else but being a photographer. And if I have to at some point in time shutter my doors, I will open another studio at some point. So it's not about quitting. It's just literally about a not right now. And this is literally a situation, like both ladies said, that it's affecting everybody. There is not a person on this planet out of almost 8 billion people that has not been affected to some extent by this. So you just keep that in mind. You're not in it alone. It is okay to ask for help, to reach
Most
out. It's okay
definitely.
to, yeah. I mean, find people to don't just vent for the sake of venting. Process, get through, try to find a way to grow. Because this literally right now, this is I'm gonna call it the age of growth, because how there was a renaissance, centuries ago. We in the age of an enlightenment. All these things are opportunities now for us to rise above where we are now and to grow and to come to a higher level. And it can be daunting, it can be exhausting, and mental health is a big thing right now, because we're concerned about that, because people are having to be alone. And if anybody deals with any kind of mental health issues that are triggered or exacerbated by that, reach out to people, make sure that everybody's cool and just in general okay. Because
Right.
if you're alone and you don't want to talk to anybody, you just start piling on yourself. So I know it's kind of a tangent here, but I think ultimately it all ties in with small business, because, as a single operator myself, it's nice to know that people are thinking about me in that process as well, and I'm thinking about others. So take these opportunities and look for new opportunities or new ways to help people and to help yourself, but do so properly, and just make sure that your fellow man is okay, and your neighbor's okay, and your parents are okay, and grandparents, family, and somebody you haven't talked to in forever. This is a great opportunity for that. So I think at this point in time, well, and John Villa, and I did touch on this, John, a little earlier, but be very, 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 very careful with all of these opportunities that we've talked about, making sure they are not ill-advised or scams, basically. Weigh everything. We are not in a situation right now where it is a knee-jerk, reactionary situation. We are having to be proactive with keeping away from reactions. And, by sheltering ourselves, by locking ourselves away, we're not in a hurry. Nothing is go, go, go right now. Outside of the front lines of the medical field, everything else is just a day by day. Take a breath, meditate on it and think about it and seek advice. Don't just do anything because it sounds great. And if somebody's offering a non-essential service and doing it illegally, odds are not something you want to jump on. So keep those things in mind, weigh it all, and kind of go from there. And ladies, do either one of you have something to add to that?
Yep, I'm going to jump in. So there's been a scam that's been going around for several years with companies who are registering for their DUNS number, DUNS. That is basically Duns and Bradstreet. It's kind of like the credit score of businesses. Most businesses should have that. That is a completely free service. And for the last several years, there's companies who try to charge upwards of $500 to complete that. Anything that you are filling out, any loan that you're looking at, anything that comes through, even for your SAM number, if you're registered for SAM as well, make sure you verify the source. I had a spam email come through the other day that said my SAM, was expired. And when I looked at it, they wanted to charge $500 to renew that. There's not a fee with that. So if anything comes through and it does look too good to be true, or you question it, I'm available to run something through. Chris, I know you know most scams. Dr. Langford, you know most scams. We will gladly stop what we're doing to look at something and advise you. Or like you said, Chris, find a mentor, find somebody who will look at it with you. But I think it's important that we don't react. I did a motivational moment earlier today, and I told everyone, I said, it's not time to worry yet. I'm going to tell you what my grandmother told me. You don't worry till I tell you to worry. And right now is not a time to worry. There is nothing to worry about. We have to keep moving forward. We slow down and we make very determined decisions, and we are very strategic, but there's no room to worry, and we definitely do not need to react. So please don't take anything like a payday loan or something that will turn around in 24 hours, because I guarantee you, if you give one of us that 24 hours, we can find you a better deal that will cost you less.
I guess
Agreed.
my final word is, if you're on any of the SBA calls or Oklahoma Department of Commerce or the rest, they are very careful, like the federal government should be, and how they talk about, the different opportunities. However, I just want to get a lot of information out there. So, again, check your sources, but work primarily with your banks and your CPAs to make sure that you're, getting all your T's crossed and your I's. But in terms of like figuring out, am I eligible or not eligible, let them decide after you apply. Right? That we could sit here all day and go through 10,000 reasons why we may or may not be eligible. Let them decide that, and then you can figure it out. And there's also an appeal process for this if you didn't get something the first time around. So we can talk about that in a future date when we get there. So apply. I'm here to help. We're all here to help.
Yes.
And your bankers and your CPAs and your bailiff. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have hit an hour, right around an hour. And I want to thank both of you for jumping in. And I want to thank Albert Rivas, who's not on camera, not talking to us, but he's been helping us with questions behind the scenes. And so big help and a big thank you to him. And ladies, I'm going to give you just one last close, just kind of to wrap up on, again, what you provide, both individually and as a service or with the organization you're with, and how that can help. And then we'll kind of put this to an end. We'll start with Sarah.
So again, I own 3 Raptor Consulting, and we specialize in helping small businesses and nonprofits. We are changing a lot of things for the month of April. So for example, if you have questions on any SBA loans or any of the further steps or loan applications, we will gladly answer questions at no charge. We also have a community development team that my team works on, and we'll find resources and things to help you out. So right now in April, we're focusing on guiding and investing and helping businesses survive. Outside of that, we specialize in business plans, strategic plans, marketing, not doing marketing plans, and then all kinds of leadership and individual customized trainings and board retreats. So check out the website, 3raptorconsulting.com, and reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer anything for you.
And Dr. Langford?
Yes, so I'm over again at Cameron University usually, and we have the whole resources of the university. I have a business incubator there as well, and we have openings for tenant spaces, office space, and you get the support of me and the university. We also have a co-working space that I'm trying to fill, which was, it's like an office, a home away from home, which, right now, not, but imagine where you're working now. It's exactly the same thing, but with human beings. So when this is over, please come and join us and meet other human beings in a space and work together. And then, of course, outside of having, students that are eager to find new online opportunities to help for internships and shadow experiences. So think about helping students as well. And of course, I have all the resources of the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center. And just remember that the SBDC is underneath the SBA. So there's an SBDC in every state, in every county, everywhere. So if you're listening to this, someone that owns a business anywhere in the United States and it's tributaries, just contact me and I'll put you in touch with those centers so that you can get assistance. And that's free, again, through your taxpayer dollars.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you both for joining me today. And I wanted to let everybody know that if anybody is interested in joining the Pandemic Business series that I've got going on, this was a special with 2 guests because we're talking specifically about these SBA options. But if you have a business, you run a business, and you don't have to be local to Lawton. I am literally opening this up nationwide, coast to coast. And if you want to talk about how you are having to modify and be pivoting with your operations to continue to operate your business and to take care of your employees. I would love to hear from you. I would love to get your input on this. And I know there's a lot of people that'll love to hear how you're doing things, because ultimately the more we talk about this, the more that we can learn and expand and adjust ourselves. It gives us new ideas. So collaboration is absolutely key in this time. And even though we can't necessarily be face-to-face in person, we can be face-to-face via online options, and we can definitely be a lot more creative with what we're doing going forward. So if you are interested, make sure you jump on my website and go to chrismartin.tv/live interviews, fill out the form. Again, we're looking at business owners, business managers, and this series talks specifically with small business. So if those are relevant to you, jump in there. And not everybody's going to be picked. We're literally weeding through applications as they come through, looking at my schedule as well to see when I can get these on the air. But jump in there and we'll see what we can do, see if we can get you online, and we'll get these going, and we can kind of go from there. But ladies, again, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.